In 5th place, we have an onslaught of natural disasters. Alrighty, so time for some context, since not all of today's predictions are coming from the same AI source, and also I like to make sure I'm as crystal clear as possible with all of y'all out there. The Daily Star asked popular AI language model ChatGPT to write its own prophecies with the help of legendary French astrologer Nostradamus, and proceeded to publish the text conversation between the AI and Nostradamus, which resulted in 7 new predictions over the next 100 years. So Nostradamus was famous for his predictions made in the 1500s, which some believe foretold modern events, such as the rise of Adolf with the last name this platform doesn't like, the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and the September 11 attacks, in addition to thousands of predictions that he published in his book Les Prophéties 467 years ago, to be exact. Oh, and before I forget, the definition of natural disaster is a disaster with links to natural hazards that can cause loss of life or damaged property, and typically leaves economic damage in its wake. The severity of the damage depends on the affected population's resilience and on the infrastructure available. Examples of natural hazards include avalanche, coastal flooding, cold wave, earthquake, hail, heat wave, hurricane, ice storm, landslide, lightning, riverine flooding, strong wind, tornado, typhoon, tsunami, volcanic activity, wildfire, and winter weather, just to name a few. A disaster is a result of a natural or human-made hazard impacting a vulnerable community, and in modern times the difference between natural, human-made, and human-accelerated disasters is a whole lot of messy gray area. Human choices and activities like architecture, fire, resource management, and climate change can play a role in causing natural disasters. Now, if that sounds super heckin' convoluted, it's because it very much is. And many brainy scholars have been saying that the term natural disaster is unsuitable and should be abandoned. Oh, right. The prediction. Pardon me, I got sidetracked. Humanity's fight against climate change may reach its peak in less than 30 years, as the AI Nostradamus warns that 2050 may be a year plagued by natural disasters that terrorize people all over the world. The prediction says, in 2050 there will be a storm, while climate change will wreak havoc again, there will be fires, floods, and hurricanes. Nature will unleash a terrible surprise. Man must scramble to find a way to fix the earth before he goes astray, but greed and indifference will take their toll, a stark reminder of the role of humanity. Well, that feels pretty biblical. After everything humanity has gone through in the last few years, I'm hoping this winds up being a whole lot of bunk. We've gone through enough major crap for a generation. Thanks! In 4th place, we have the AI revolution. This is the other listing on this list that came from Nostradamus and ChatGPT, and this is where I admit I'm not any kind of AI overall expert. The AI warned that humans might fall into fear and anxiety of the artificial intelligence revolution in 2060. The prediction says, in 2060, robots and machines will develop, it will be a vibrant revolution, industries must be reshaped all over the world, but fear and anxiety will also loom as jobs and futures are lost. A person must adapt to learn again, to coexist with and penetrate technology. Well, that's just terrifying. Learn to coexist with? I have a feeling it's not talking about simply introducing grandparents to how a smartphone works. Before today, all I knew about ChatGPT was the occasional meme, and I had a friend once ask me if I, used it to write these videos, which I was horrified could even be a reality. I promise you all, my words here and always will be my own. Yes, I'm the kind of gal who says stuff like cripes and euchred on a regular basis. Now you might be asking, okay Alexa, that's cute and all, but how is it relevant? Well, has anyone seen iRobot? Or heck, done any research on ChatGPT? For the folks like me who had no idea on what the heck the basis of ChatGPT was until now, allow me to share what I've learned today. ChatGPT, which is short for Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer, was developed by OpenAI and launched on November 30th of 2022. The goal is to enable users to refine and steer a conversation towards a desired length, format, style, level of detail, and language used. Successive prompts and replies are taken into account at each stage of the conversation as a context. By January of this year, it had become the fastest growing consumer software application in history, getting over 100 million users. Within months, Google, Baidu, and Meta accelerated the development of their competing projects, Palm-E, ErnieBot, and Llama, to be specific. Now, some folks have expressed concern over the potential of ChatGPT to displace or atrophy human intelligence, and I'm on that team for sure. Going back to mentioning iRobot, because I sure as heck wasn't going to leave that as a statement without a follow-up, if that movie taught me anything other than, just how underrated Alan Tudyk is as a performer, it's that over-reliance and giving too much agency to AI and technology will only cause a cluster mess of epic proportions. Number 3, robot takeover. In 2012, The Simpsons made a prediction about mass automation. A fancy way of saying they depicted a world where robots replaced human workers, which is a scenario that seems increasingly plausible with every day that passes. Also, back in 1994, in an episode titled Itchy and Scratchy Land, the show ventured into the realm of AI. The Simpson family visited a theme park staffed with robots that ultimately malfunction, leading to a scary and chaotic outcome. This fictional portrayal of a robot uprising bears an eerie resemblance to the concerns raised by a man who is often hailed as the father of artificial intelligence. And yes, this man has a name, but I can only pronounce it once. Schmidhuber. He anticipates that AI superintelligence will usher in rapid technological advancements, bringing about profound transformations in society within a mere 30 years. And we're seeing AI more and more these days. His prediction aligns with the current trajectory of AI development. So as technology continues to evolve, urges society to navigate the evolving landscape of technology with extreme caution. Signs of robotic automation are already prevalent, supporting The Simpsons' prophetic vision. Machines and algorithms are assuming roles traditionally held by humans, sparking debates about the future of manual human work. The fear of job displacement due to automation is mirroring the anxieties portrayed, in the animated series. Discussions about AI ethics and regulation are gaining traction. Policymakers and experts grapple with the challenge of striking a balance between innovation and the responsible deployment of AI. The need for proactive measures to manage the potential risks associated with unchecked technological growth is pretty clear. The Simpsons foresaw a world where automation disrupts the workforce, and we're living in a world where this notion is becoming more and more obvious each day. Robots causing displacement in 2024? Not too far off. Once again, do we all remember iRobot? Did that not teach you anything? Other than, Alan Tudyk is severely underrated. Number 2, virtual, everything. So in this episode's futuristic setting, Homer and Marge indulge in virtual fudge through VR glasses and feeding tubes. Despite the virtual nature and the promise of no calories, Homer's love for junk food remains unabated. In a bizarre turn of events, Mr. Burns hires the Simpsons to become his live-in virtual reality family. However, an interesting twist unfolds as Homer is deliberately excluded from this virtual family setup, allowing Mr. Burns to assume the role of the father. Left in solitude, Homer discovers a new companion in Julia, his girl-next-door neighbor, who shares his habits and preferences in eating, drinking, and thinking. Royal Caribbean is exploring the integration of virtual reality into the dining experience for cruise line guests. The concept involves transporting diners to different settings with each bite, offering a unique and immersive culinary journey. Cornell University's food scientists have delved into the realm of virtual reality as well, discovering that consuming cheese in a pleasant VR environment enhances the overall taste experience. So this narrative in The Simpsons reflects a speculation about the direction in which our world might be heading. The show imagines a future where virtual reality infiltrates everyday life, not only in entertainment and dining, but also in the dynamics of personal relationships. The example of a virtual family for hire mirrors the newfound reliance on technology for social interactions, and the blurring lines between reality and simulation. The exploration of VR-enhanced dining experiences by real-world entities like Royal Caribbean aligns with the show's previously mirrored satirical take on technological advancements. It highlights society's fascination with merging the virtual and physical realms, seeking to elevate mundane activities such as eating into otherworldly multisensory experiences. Which is just, I'm not gonna get into it. You don't need to hear me vent for like a million years and a half, but goodness gracious. Yes, The Simpsons mainly serves as a satirical mirror reflecting contemporary trends and societal obsessions. But with each passing year, their previous observations look a little less satirical and a lot more literal. Remember when they predicted that Disney was gonna own them? That one boggled my mind. Number 1, environmental disaster. So The Simpsons movie portrays an environmental catastrophe triggered by Homer Simpson's reckless disposal of pig waste into Springfield Lake, which exacerbates an already critical pollution situation. The event leads to a response from the president, who encapsulates the entire town of Springfield under a glass dome to contain the contamination. While the movie's plot takes an exaggerated and implausible turn, the underlying environmental concerns it raises do resonate with real-world issues. The film's premise parallels actual environmental crises, where water pollution has posed significant threats to communities and ecosystems globally. The dumping of pollutants into water bodies like Homer's careless act has led to severe consequences in various regions. The movie's exaggerated scenario, of course, serves as a satirical reflection of the potential severity of such pollution incidents, but it's becoming more uncanny. Instances of deadly levels of contaminated water are not confined to fiction. Numerous documented cases worldwide showcase the devastating impact of industrial and agricultural runoff, sewage discharges, and hazardous waste disposal on water quality. From toxic algae blooms to chemical contaminants, water pollution remains a pressing global concern with far-reaching ecological and public health implications. The concept of enclosing a town under a giant glass dome may seem far-fetched, but it prompts contemplation on the drastic measures that might be considered in response to escalating environmental crises. Communities facing extreme pollution levels often witness stringent containment measures. Though not as theatrical as a transparent dome, this isn't the phase. If you got that reference, I adore you. They may feel like that at times. Environmental regulations, water treatment plants, and cleanup efforts are often implemented to control the damage caused by pollution, emphasizing the importance of proactive measures opposed to reactive in safeguarding public health and ecosystems. As environmental challenges remain prominent, the film's exaggerated portrayal acts as a reminder of the urgent need for responsible environmental stewardship. Whether it's a contamination of water sources or broader issues such as climate change, the movie's underlying message aligns with the ongoing global discourse on the importance of sustainable practices and the consequences of failing to address environmental issues effectively, which isn't really being done. So 2024, environmental disaster, here we come! Yay.
Number 5. War. What is it good for? 7 months the Great War, people dead of evil doing. Ruin ever shall not fall to the king. Now, if you've watched any of our previous videos on Nostradamus and other end-of-the-world prediction-style videos, you know that Nostradamus and the other seers tended to keep their predictions pretty vague, but sometimes they spelled it out simple enough that even a simpleton like me can follow along. Nostradamus is predicting a big war, a great war even, in size, not in quality. I don't think there was ever a great war. If the quatrain is anything to go off of, Nostradamus predicts that the war will erupt across Europe and then ravage the countryside, while hopefully keeping the city of Rouen, France in a good spot, and will refuse to fall to the king. Now that part is open to a little bit of interpretation, because really that could mean anything. Who could the king be referring to? Is it one particular world leader? One nation vying for power? Is it the Burger King mascot who's finally snapped and is on a warpath of world domination? He's easily the most unhinged and dangerous of all fast food mascots, and the one I would most expect to start a war. Now, this is obviously a delicate subject, but the current situations across Eastern Europe is already cause for enough alarm. A war that's got everybody on their toes and watching the news constantly. And I don't think anyone wants to see it develop further into a proverbial Great War. A 7-month Great War sounds like it'd be over in a flash, but I think the last thing anyone wants is a war that's over in a flash, knowing the nuclear-powered arsenals out there. Shorter war is not necessarily a good thing. Nuclear annihilation is kind of the last thing anybody needs out there. Hey, hope I'm not bumming you out too much, talking about global conflicts and possibly the end of the world. Let's talk about something fun, like our fun channel. We got all sorts of scary content of just about any topic you can think of. So click through, stay scared, but stay watching this video, because we got a whole lot more predictions left to go. Number 4, Mars and Elon Musk. Listen to this quatrain. The two contenders will unite together. When most others unite with Mars, the African leader is fearful and trembles. The dual alliance is separated by the fleet. This one seems too perfect, you know? Immediately as I read that quatrain, maybe you made the same connection too. Mars, African leader. Immediately coming to my mind is Elon Musk, the South African billionaire tycoon who currently owns Twitter and has been extremely outspoken about his desire to flee this planet and to become the king and colonize the red planet of Mars. But who are these two contenders that have to unite together? Could it be referring to global superpowers coming together for the future of humanity? Or is it Facebook and Twitter coming together and he's just looking to buy more social medias? Some professional followers of Nostradamus' work, such as Lori Reading, has argued in favor of this as well, arguing that this is referring to the billionaire's plans for galactic domination. Another quatrain seems almost connected with this line from another verse. Take a listen. The light of Mars shall go out. Could this be again a reference to the mission? A suggestion that perhaps this dream of Mars is just that, a foolish dream, and that a colony on Mars would fail in upon itself. It also links up bizarrely well with the Opportunity rover. If you remember that from a few years back, the little guy who was rolling around the surface of Mars, its last transmission was, "My battery is fading and I'm going dark," which is almost like directly saying a light of Mars is going out. This is actually starting to creep me out here. Nostradamus might have been magic just a little bit. Time will tell, obviously, if this one remains to be true, although after Twitter, I don't know. I'm not so sure. I don't know if I want to pay $8 a month to subscribe to Mars Blue for a checkmark.
Number 3. Bioweapon deployment and designer humans. Baba Vanga is credited with an unsettling and disconcerting prediction involving a big country conducting biological weapon tests or attacks. The use of biological weapons is a grave concern with potential catastrophic consequences. Extensive research indicates that various countries have historically explored biological warfare capabilities, raising international apprehension about the ethical and security implications of such actions. Another prediction attributed to Baba Vanga reaches into the realm of human reproduction and genetic manipulation. The notion of humans being grown and born in laboratories sparks contemplation about the future of genetic engineering and its potential impact on childbirth. While the precise specifics of Baba Vanga's vision remain unclear, advancements in genetic testing, IVF, and childbirth technologies are major subjects of ongoing scientific exploration. Current Current research confirms that genetic testing is rapidly advancing, offering insights into potential health risks and allowing for more informed family planning decisions. IVF continues to evolve, providing hope and happiness for couples facing fertility challenges. While the idea of designing humans to specific parental specifications may be more speculative, the field of genetic engineering is progressing and it is prompting ethical discussions and considerations about the potential societal implications of manipulating human genetics. Now, when it says ethical, that's a pretty loose term because designer humans would be the downfall of humans. While the creation of humans in laboratories may seem far-fetched, the accelerating pace of scientific discovery invites contemplation about the ethical boundaries and societal impacts of emerging technologies. In the coming years, the convergence of genetic research, reproductive technologies, and ethical considerations may reshape how humans approach childbirth. While the specific details, again, of Baba Vanga's predictions may not materialize exactly as described, the broader themes highlight the potential for significant transformations in the fields of genetics and reproductive science. Society's response to these advancements will likely be shaped by ongoing debates surrounding ethics, privacy, and the responsible use of emerging technologies. Just a small tangent as to why I don't think genetically modified humans are a good idea. Okay, could you imagine the superiority? It would actually allow people to create like a master race, and they would be able to justify the new race's superiority by their genetic tinkering, because they would literally be built to emanate perfection. It's no. Number 2, orbit alteration. Baba Vanga made predictions about astronomical events beyond solar flares. Among her long list of predictions is the claim that Earth's orbit will undergo a significant alteration. Scientifically, the orbits of celestial bodies in the solar system are influenced by gravitational forces, primarily forces from the sun. While minor fluctuations are expected and accounted for over time, substantial alterations to Earth's orbit would have giant consequences. Research into the astrophysics indicates that celestial bodies, including Earth, experience gravitational interactions with other objects in the solar system. These interactions, however, typically result in gradual changes to orbits that occur over extended periods of time. The idea of a sudden and radical alteration to Earth's orbit raises a plethora of concerns surrounding potential catastrophic outcomes. Climate disruption is one consequence of a significant change in Earth's orbit. The Earth's distance from the sun affects its climate, and any abrupt shift could lead to unpredictable weather patterns, altered seasons, and disruptions to the ecosystem. Such changes would have cascading effects on agriculture, water resources, and overall environmental stability. Another consequence would be an increase in radiation levels. The Earth's position in its orbit plays a very important role in shielding it from the bulk of the sun's radiation. A sudden alteration would expose the planet to higher levels of solar radiation, posing risks to living organisms and impacting technological systems. Elevated radiation levels have the potential to harm human health, damage electronic equipment, and interfere with communication systems. And we love our electronic equipment, so I think there would be some upset. An altered orbit also introduces the possibility of, well, widespread chaos. The interconnectedness of global systems, including transportation, communication, and energy infrastructure, means that any significant disruption could have cascading effects on societies worldwide. The abrupt nature of such an unexpected event would likely limit humanity's ability to adapt accordingly and mitigate the consequences. While scientific understanding affirms that gravitational forces can influence orbits, the idea of a sudden and extreme alteration remains speculative. Number 1. Drastic weather events. Baba Vanga predicted that the world would experience severe weather events and natural disasters in the near future. Current research on the world's environmental state supports this, especially when we are met with the reality of increasing frequency and intensity of such incidents. Climate change is a significant and honestly the leading factor contributing to extreme weather events. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, there's clear evidence that human activities such as burning fossil fuels and deforestation are causing global temperatures to rise. Crazy! This warming contributes to more frequent and severe weather events, including hurricanes, wildfires, floods, and heat waves. In recent years, various regions of the world have witnessed devastating natural disasters. The United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction reported that the number of weather-related disasters has more than doubled over the past 40 years. These disasters would include hurricanes like Katrina and Harvey, wildfires in Australia and California, and floods affecting South Asia and Europe. Baba Vanga's prediction aligns with the scientific consensus on the increasing occurrence of extreme weather events. The impacts of these disasters extend beyond immediate physical damage, affecting communities, economies, and ecosystems. Research also emphasizes the immense importance of addressing environmental issues to mitigate the severity and frequency of natural natural disasters. Sustainable practices such as reducing greenhouse gas emissions, protecting natural habitats, and adopting resilient, environmentally friendly infrastructure are all crucial for building protective and preventative measures against the impacts of climate change. The prediction also coincides with global efforts to address environmental challenges. Several international agreements aim to limit global temperature increases and promote sustainable development. The urgency to implement and enforce these measures remains a critical aspect of mitigating the environmental factors contributing to severe weather events. As Baba Vanga's prediction resonates with the observable trends in our environment, it reinforces the need for collective action to address climate change. The ongoing conversation on environmental conservation and sustainable practices reflects a global recognition of the challenges derived from the quickly changing climate and the importance of proactive measures to protect our planet and its inhabitants.
In fifth place, we have the threats of pestilence. To quote directly from Matthew 24, "And there shall be pestilences." I think I speak for all of us on Earth when I wonder if we've already started to go through with that promise. The last 3 years have been so greatly affected by plague and illness, and I'm not quite sure we will ever have a definite end, which was almost scary enough to put this higher up on my list. Thankfully, with being able to protect so many against the current illness and reopening the world, this isn't the great illness we need to fear. Biblical judgments through disease are said to be supernatural in origin. For example, when God sent boils to Egypt, they broke out instantly on humans and animals throughout the land. The pestilence of Revelation will come from one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Everything the world has gone through in the last few years was natural, not supernatural. God did not cause this virus or the panini it created. Secondly, biblical judgments are against specific sins and sinners. From Pharaoh's obstinacy to Herod's prideful idolatry, divine judgments of the past and future come to those who refuse his word and will. Throughout scripture and history, God deals with us as gently as he can or as harshly as he must. It has been preached that no specific sins cause this virus, nor are those who are afflicted with it more sinful than the rest of us. God is, quote, said to love the elderly and those with pre-existing conditions just as much as he loves the young and the healthy. I worry what could happen in the future that could be worse. Mentally, you do not want to see me cooped up again for another year. And as much as I love a good Sleepy Hollow marathon, I don't need to see a horseman of the apocalypse in person. In fourth place, we have the promises of hate. Once again from the book of Matthew, many will be offended and betray each other. Similar to my last point, I worry this prediction may already be beginning to show in today's society. With the news that comes across my feed every day, I worry for the world as we know it. According to the Bible, where there is conflict, there is the potential for hate, which leads to discord, disharmony, malice, and anger. Hate is a motivator for wicked behavior, and the Bible helps identify hate by showing how indulging in it leads to certain outcomes. Hate is not just an emotion, but a state of being that involves choices, behaviors, and thoughts. It separates people rather than bringing them together, because the one hating sets themselves away from another. Hate is intimately tied in with death, and it is said that someone harboring hate is killing their brother in their heart. When this hate is acted upon, it leads to death. Sometimes that is spiritual or relational, but unfortunately it can also be the ending of the life of another. Hate is dangerous because when taken to its logical conclusion, it is the desire to eliminate the humanity of another. I'd like to hope that we as a society can heal from the hatred in our hearts, avoiding this prediction from coming true.
Number 3, a change in the Earth's orbit. There's a lot of wonderful things to like about the planet Earth. Lush fields, flowing water, and its orbit exactly where it should be, which is quite an underrated but fantastic trait of the big blue marble we call home. Baba Vanga made another worrying prediction about the state of the Earth for 2023. She predicted that somehow something is going to knock Earth off of its orbit forever. Now, it should go without saying that something knocking Earth off of its orbit would be very bad. If Earth somehow was thrown off its orbit by some terrible force, it would wreak incalculable havoc. Countries would be thrown into cycles of days and nights that would last not for hours, but for months at a time. Think of the damage that would be caused. Unending daylight would lead to mass sleep deprivation, global anxiety, as well as incalculable damage to our flora, fauna, and wildlife. Crops would be ravaged and burnt, leading to a global famine. Unending days would lead to temperatures doubling, melting the ice caps at an even faster rate than they already are. This would result in massively rising sea levels and the flooding of coastal cities. Unending night wouldn't be much better, as it would make things very cold, and plant life would have no way to achieve the necessary photosynthesis, resulting in crop failures and once again, countless deaths. Interestingly, this is a recognized phenomenon called a polar night, and there's a town in Norway that experiences something like this. In Tromsø, the sun doesn't rise from November to January. While this is fine for a Norwegian town, a polar night taking place in the bread bowl is a recipe for disaster, and that's not even mentioning how much easier that would make it for vampires to attack us. Number 2. A solar storm. With all the rather dire predictions made by Baba Vanga, it could be tempting to call her a pessimist. One of her more devastating predictions for the year ahead is that we will experience what is known as a solar storm. A solar storm refers to phenomena taking place on the surface of the sun, such as coronal mass ejections or solar flares. If one of these coronal mass ejections were to reach Earth, it would cause a geomagnetic storm that would have horrible consequences for our technology-reliant world. This kind of storm has happened before on Earth in 1859 in what has since been called the Carrington Event, due to the work of astronomer Richard Carrington. It resulted in telegraph networks being knocked out, as well as people using electronics being electrocuted, and even some pretty nasty fires. But it would be much worse if it happened today. Imagine, if you will, a world where all of the technology you take for granted was suddenly fried and unusable. Suddenly, internet access and records would be lost. Communication systems that we have come to rely on to keep our world running would become useless blocks of dead machinery. A world of darkness where chaos reigns and the financial markets are suddenly put into a dramatic tailspin that we could not even begin to reverse the effects of for years. Think of the chaos that took place relatively recently in Texas when the power grid went down, and imagine what would happen if that took place all over the world. The effect of this happening now could be no less than the total collapse of modern society. This is one of the most plausible predictions made by Baba Vanga, as some scientists say that since this kind of solar activity has happened before, we are overdue for it to happen again, and that is a matter not of if, but rather of when it happens. Considering the disastrous global consequences of one of these severe solar storms, let us hope that Baba Vanga is incorrect in her prediction that this will happen in 2023. Number 1. An alien invasion. One of Baba Vanga's most surprising predictions for 2023 is that this is the year we will make contact with visitors from another world. Unfortunately for us, these visitors will apparently not be coming in peace. She says that aliens will attack the Earth, and that during their invasion they will use technology in order to prevent us from using electricity for 3 days and 3 nights, and that the Earth will be plunged into total darkness, with neither the moon or the stars being visible. We've already gone over how reliant we are on technology in the previous entry, so imagine how difficult it would be for us to suddenly be thrown back to the Stone Age, and then have to try and fight an alien race who have extremely advanced technology, as well as a desire to kill us. Baba Vanga claims that this will not be the end of the species as a whole, and that 10,000 of us will survive. But considering that we currently have a planet-wide population of 7.8 billion people, 10,000 survivors indicates only a 1.28% survival rate, meaning that for all practical purposes, it would be the end of the world as we know it. Apparently, peace with extraterrestrials is something we will eventually achieve, as Baba Vanga predicts that in the year 2130, aliens will be helping us to construct underwater cities, which will manage to become autonomous by producing their own power and food by 2195. These underwater cities are even more impressive when you consider that Baba Vanga also predicts that the Earth will become dry and desertified by 2170. Baba Vanga also predicts that in the year 2288, humanity will discover time travel, and that this is when aliens and humans will make contact. Which is interesting, as she already said that the first contact in war with the aliens would happen 265 years prior. And if this is first contact, who are the aliens helping us build the underwater cities on the dry desert planet of Earth 158 years earlier in 2130? Do all these contradictions have anything to do with the time travel we will discover? Truly, Baba Vanga gets more and more mysterious as time goes by. Number 5. Oh great, more viruses. Considering how ill-prepared we turned out to be for the last super virus that ravaged the world, the idea of more viruses in the future is somehow equal parts terrifying and exhausting. Baba Vanga actually predicts a few different viruses will come to light, but the soonest will not affect humans, though it is still disturbing disturbing. According to Baba, in 2023, birds will be subjected to a deadly virus that will transmit through both the air and contaminated water. It will spread incredibly fast, wiping out entire flocks in weeks and leaving many species of bird on the brink of extinction. Scientists will apparently scramble to try and find a cure for our avian friends, but the now common sight of a flock of birds flying through the air will become a distant memory. This doesn't directly affect humans, but considering how much chicken we as a species eat, this will be a tough loss if it comes to pass. The next virus Baba Vanga predicts will apparently take hold in 2088 and will be unlike anything we've ever seen. It won't cause humans to have trouble breathing or for their immune systems to be compromised, but will apparently cause people to age extremely rapidly, resulting in a young person in their 20s looking like a senior citizen within a few seconds. This virus will apparently be an issue for humanity for almost 10 years, when it is apparently exterminated in 2097. We will then apparently get a break from pandemics until the year 2256, when a rocket sent to explore the deepest parts of the cosmos will return to Earth carrying an intergalactic virus. Hopefully, this virus won't be too intense, as a universal cure for all diseases isn't predicted until the year 4304. Though by then, Baba Vanga says that humans will no longer live on Earth, but on Mars, so make of that what you will. Number 4. A dangerous bioweapon. In 1925, the Geneva Convention decided to ban the use of biological weapons in war, with all the countries making a promise to never, under any circumstances, develop, produce, stockpile, or otherwise acquire or retain microbial or other biological agents or toxins, whatever their origin or method of production, of types and in quantities that have no justification for prophylactic, protective, or other peaceful purposes. They also agreed not to develop weapons, equipment, or means of delivery designed to use such agents or toxins for hostile purposes, or in armed combat. For the most part, the countries of the world have stuck to this agreement, other than some outliers such as the Soviet Union and Iraq. Unfortunately, one of Baba Vanga's other predictions for 2023 says that a large country will begin testing a new bioweapon. She is sparse on the details, but if this is true, which of the large nations will be carrying out the test? Will it be Russia, the United States, China? Who? And what is the nature of this bioweapon? Does it contain lab-grown viruses that could wreak havoc on humanity, or some other deadly mutagen that could permanently alter the DNA of its victims? Although she has had a few predictions that came true, Baba Vanga also said that World War III would begin in 2010, and that by 2016, Europe would become an empty wasteland. So hopefully, this is one of the predictions that turns out to not be true, as the idea of chemical weapons being unleashed this year is simply too much for me to deal with on top of everything else going on.
In third place, we have Alien Invasion. DALL-E is a machine learning model that was created by OpenAI to conjure up unusual images from keyword prompts. Created in 2021, so ergo before ChatGPT, it is known as a transformer language model that can turn almost any idea into images. Not gonna lie, whenever I say transformer, I do giggle a little bit, because I can't help but think about like the dang toy and movie franchise. Now, this AI was named after WALL-E, and while I love a good Disney and Pixar reference, that doesn't make any of this less scary to me. When asked what extraterrestrials would look like if they visited planet Earth, the AI produced several concept images. One depicted an eerie, robot-like figure standing in a desert with flying saucers above. Another image showed two humans wearing jeans and jumpers having their heads zapped off by a UFO. And if that wasn't disturbing enough, the creepy AI also conjured a strange naked silver figure running through a field towards a flying saucer. Now here's the thing. Do I believe in aliens? Before I started doing research on them all the time, I might have said no, but now I very much do. I think they're genuinely out there, watching us humans from a distance, occasionally popping their heads down and visiting. Am I afraid of them? 90% of the time my answer to that is no, but after seeing those depictions, it's a little more worrisome. Before someone comments about discrepancies between alien tales over the years, I'd like to state that I firmly believe that visitors coming from different planets and solar systems probably all just look different. And so do humans. In second place, AI is gonna take over the world. The TikTok account Robot Overlords claims to have asked AI how it's gonna take over the world. Because sure, that's not gonna produce any kind of nightmares whatsoever. The TikToker hasn't clearly stated which AI is being used to generate the images, but they do use the hashtag DALL-E2. So I'm assuming it's the same bot I just talked about with the aliens. Great, I'm gonna keep shivering from fear until I go to sleep at this rate. The images revealed in the short video show masses of scary machines. Some of the imagined robots are shown towering over humans. One scene even looks like some last remaining humans moving through a robot city. The TikTok video has over 43,000 likes, but some viewers were more plays than others. One TikTok user wrote, "Don't put that in their heads." Another joked, "Just spray some water on it." And while joking about gremlins are funny, I repeat, has no one watched iRobot or heard of Superbia? Okay, that last one might be a niche reference, I'll admit it, but there are plenty of examples out in the world as to why we should not rely on tech to the point of dependence. And in our first place, we have AI predicting political stance from photographs. Yep, you heard me correctly. Unlike all of the other spots on today's list, this was actually a full in-depth study that almost had me spit out my water when I first read it. An honest-to-goodness study in Denmark found that artificial intelligence algorithms can help predict a person's political ideology based on their facial characteristics. The tech found right-wing politicians were more likely to have happy facial expressions in photos, while people pictured with neutral facial expressions were more likely to identify as left-wing. It used deep learning to predict ideology from facial photographs using expressions, beauty, and extra facial information, and found that AI can predict a person's political ideology with 61% accuracy when analyzing a photo of a person. That may not sound like a lot when the usual guess is 50%, but that's a big extra 11%. Deep learning, a method in AI where computer scientists teach computers to learn and process information similar to humans, can be used to make predictions about people based on photographs alone, which is what the researchers explained in their very fancy paper on this. The scientists tried to pin down exactly what information contributes to the predictive success of these techniques. According to the researchers, humans as a whole are able to read another person's face and make judgments almost immediately about personality, intelligence, and even political ideology, so I guess they guess, why can't robots do the same thing? Intelligence and even political ideology, so I guess they guess, why can't robots do the same thing? Yeah, that doesn't sit well with me. Study author Stig Rasmussen of Aarhus University and his colleagues explored, if computational neural networks, which are algorithms that mimic the structure and function of human brains, can predict a person's political ideology based on a single photo alone. The scientists trained the neural network with thousands of photos of politicians from the nation's 2017 municipal elections, noting the elections were not highly polarized nor competitive. They did away with any photos of candidates who were not explicitly left or right-wing, were not of European ethnic origin, or had been photographed with a beard. To make the playing field as leveled as possible, the photos only depicted the facial features of the candidates, not photos with backgrounds that could alter predictions. The researchers were left with 4,647 photos of political candidates, 1,442 of which depicted female politicians. The researchers used facial expression recognition technology from Microsoft to measure the emotional state seen in the photos, as well as other algorithms to determine attractiveness and even masculinity of the candidates. They also used a handful of photos of Danish politicians to test the algorithm's accuracy. All in all, the research found that the AI trained on the data could accurately predict ideology to the tune of 61%, showing the algorithms could predict political affiliation better than pure chance. They wrote that the results confirmed the threat to privacy posed by deep learning approaches, and no kidding! The research found female politicians who were more attractive were more likely conservative, while attractiveness and masculinity for men was not tied to political ideology. Faces of both men and women who appeared happier were also more likely to be right-wing, while neutral facial expressions meant the politicians were more likely members of the left-wing parties. The study added that, though it was more rare, women who showed contempt on their faces were more likely left-leaning. Honestly, while I'd love to see that expanded in theory, the thoughts of how this could be used for awful things in profiling terrify me. Someone somewhere would totally use this to discriminate in some sort of hiring situation, and that just does not sit well at all with me.
Number 5. Quantum computing advancements and cyber threats. The world is currently experiencing a major machine learning revolution, with generative AI technologies like ChatGPT making headlines. Mainstream press often overlooks the rapid and startling progress surrounding the field of quantum computing as well. Quantum computers utilizing quantum mechanical effects and qubits instead of traditional bits have the capability to solve problems at a much faster rate than conventional computers. Quantum computing is complex, and despite what some people think, it is a real-world phenomenon that is advancing very swiftly. It involves the manipulation of quantum bits, which results in the allowance of unprecedented computational power. The development of this technology is not a mere science fiction concept, but an actual occurrence. Baba Vanga is said to have foreseen a breakthrough in quantum computing during our time. If this prediction materializes in 2024, it has the potential to significantly accelerate the ongoing AI revolution, impacting people worldwide. Research in quantum computing corroborates the potential for revolutionary advancements. Companies and research institutes institutions globally are investing heavily in quantum technology, aiming to harness its power for solving complex problems in various fields. The integration of quantum computing with AI could also lead to unprecedented breakthroughs, as both technologies continue to evolve far too quickly in my opinion. Alongside this prediction, Baba Vanga also foresaw an increase in cyber attacks. The prophecy suggests that hackers with advanced skills will target crucial infrastructure, including water treatment facilities and electricity grids, posing a threat to national security. This aligns with the growing concerns in cybersecurity as technology advances, making critical systems more susceptible to sophisticated cyber threats. As the world witnesses the convergence of quantum computing and artificial intelligence, the predictions made by Baba Vanga gain attention, prompting reflection on the potential implications for global cybersecurity. The anticipation of an accelerated AI revolution and heightened cyber threats underscores the need for robust security measures to safeguard critical infrastructure and ensure the responsible development and deployment of these transformative technologies, especially with the new advanced technology that we are going to be seeing in the near future. Number 4. An economic crisis. This one is by far the scariest on the list. Money, debt, financial crises. Baba Vanga predicted that the world economy would face a severe crisis triggered by factors such as escalating debt levels and heightened geopolitical conflicts. Research indicates that the global economic landscape is indeed facing challenges, with these elements contributing to concerns about economic stability. Current data shows a significant increase in global debt levels. According to the International Monetary Fund, the world's total debt reached a record high of $281 trillion in 2021. High debt levels constrain economies, limiting their ability to respond to economic downturns and increasing the risk of financial crises. And no matter how many times people explain global debt to me, I will never understand it. Who is the earth in debt to? Like, yeah, governments and large corporations, but that's all their debt. I don't know why it has to affect me. I didn't spend it. Geopolitical conflicts are also impacting the world economy. Ongoing tensions between major global players contribute to uncertainty in international markets. Trade disputes, sanctions, and geopolitical unrest can disrupt global supply chains, affecting businesses and causing huge fluctuations in financial markets. The prediction aligns with the real-world economic challenges as countries grapple with the aftermath of worldwide events. The most recent event has led to economic contractions, job losses, and disruptions in various industries. Efforts to recover have been hindered by increasing debt burdens and geopolitical tensions. The interconnectedness of the global economy means that isolated events in one region can have widespread repercussions. Geopolitical conflicts such as trade wars or territorial disputes can lead to economic sanctions and impact the flow of goods and services between nations. The World Economic Outlook report by the IMF emphasizes the need for coordinated international efforts to address economic challenges. It highlights the importance of resolving trade tensions and fostering cooperation to promote sustainable economic growth.
Number 3. More plague. Oh, that's the last thing any of us need. Well, take a listen to this doom prophecy. Near the gates and within 2 cities, there will be 2 scourges, the likes of which has never seen. Famine within plague, people put out by steel, crying to the great immortal God for relief. Well, this doesn't sound fun at all. I'm not sure anybody wants this. I'm pretty sure everyone watching this has experienced more than enough plagues to last us a lifetime. Of course, it's unfortunately kind of foolhardy to think that humanity will never experience another viral epidemic because, well, germs are always going to exist unless we eradicate them entirely. So all we can do is brace ourselves for the next one and hopefully learn from the past. I mean, that's why we're looking all the way back to an old French astronomer who was writing things in the 15th century, and the off chance that any of it might help us out. Well, he might be on the money with this one again, because recently in 2021, researchers in Siberia uncovered in a block of ice 33 strains of ancient novel viruses. Now, novel means that they haven't been discovered before, not that they're just kind of fun and no trivia. Personally, I would put them back in the iceberg, I think, and then I would put like a tarp or maybe some tape over it. I think we should just deal with that where it is, and we should not be bringing any ancient prehistoric viruses into today's times. I think I'm good. Now, what really concerns me about this quatrain is the picture that it paints. Near the gates and within 2 cities, the people will be put out by steel, crying to the great immortal God for relief. Oh, that's dramatic. Could this be a reference to some power taking out its own citizens? Armies firing at infected individuals? Now, it could be that, but it could also be possible that Nostradamus somehow had a powerful vision into the future and he was just watching an episode of The Last of Us and he was basing his predictions around that. Good on him for not spoiling that series for 500 years. Number 2. Economic crisis. Take a listen to this. No abbots, monks, no novices to learn. Honey shall cost far more than candle wax. So high the price of wheat that man is stirred to eat his fellow man in despair. Now, I'm not an economist. I'm a YouTuber, sort of. But I don't need to be an economist to tell you that things have been getting pretty expensive and everyone's feeling their purse strings tighten up. I can't tell you how many times this week I've had pasta with no sauce for dinner. Admittedly, I don't buy a ton of honey or candle wax, so I can't really comment on how accurate that all is, but I can definitely tell you that my weekly groceries are getting a lot more expensive. The fear, of course, here is that I think eating your fellow man in despair really does not sound like the good option. Now, there are a couple different ways we could take this interpretation. We could take it very literally, suggesting that things are going to get so dire and so bad that we'll have so little food to go around that we're forced to consume one another to survive, which really doesn't sound pleasant. And while I'm talking, I'd just like to throw out here, I am way too stringy to be valuable as meat. I mean, look at me, I'm like a bird, I'm hollow, so I wouldn't make a good meal out of me at all, so don't even bother trying over here. Alternatively, it could be interpreted in a more esoteric way. And since he's an old astronomer, I'm sure he spoke esoterically most of the time. He could be referring to the idea of eating the rich. If people get so fed up with the costs of living on just about everything and decide to revolt and strike back at the people in charge, hoping to dismantle the systems in place, which, hey, funny enough, actually leads into a segue for my next point really well. It's almost like I set that up. Number 1. Great discord. Take a listen. The trumpet shakes with great discord. An agreement broken, lifting the face to heaven. The bloody mouth will swim with blood. The face anointed with milk and honey lies on the ground. Like most of Nostradamus' writings, this one does sound a bit like it's the opening monologue to one of the Lord of the Rings movies, and wow, honey again. Honey was like a really serious cause of concern for this guy. I think he might not have been an astronomer. He might just have been a man who took his morning tea incredibly seriously. So besides crying over spilled milk and honey, what do our great Nostradamus experts have to say about this one? Was Nostradamus banned from his Discord server and writing against the tyrannical mods? Well, like all of the ones on this list, this unnerving prediction seems to suggest that dire violence will come to plague us, with unrest between the masses and classes leading to full-scale rebellion and riots. This little ditty seems to support that, with Nostradamus writing that sooner and later you will see great changes made, dreadful horrors and vengeances. Well, I support great changes, definitely. I'm a huge fan of great changes, but I am not so sure about dreadful horrors and vengeances. I feel like I've seen more than enough of those. The last few years have seen more civil unrest than ever. Like, this is the most upset I've seen people in my life, at least. With it seeming like that somewhere around the world there's a mass scale protest or riot every couple of weeks. You know, it's easy to flick on the news and you see that and wonder if eventually we're gonna hit a boiling point and we'll see some of those horrifying horrors and vengeances and all those mal thoughts that he was thinking up. And when it does, if we'll see some serious changes, or hey, at the very least, maybe some positive progress towards the price of honey, because apparently that's the most important cause in the world.
Number 5. Music mind control. So in a 2001 episode of The Simpsons, Bart and his friends form a new band that unwittingly becomes part of a psychological operations project by the Navy Department. The band's purpose is to disseminate subliminal messages to young folks through their music. And their most popular track in this episode is titled Drop Da Explosive, you know, with a B. Now, as we know, The Simpsons has gained quite the reputation for predicting future events, so some people speculate that the portrayal of a PSYOPs project involving subliminal messages in music might not be entirely far-fetched. We all remember Josie and the Pussycats, right? That was happening there. The concept raises questions about the power of music and its potential impact on shaping beliefs and behaviors, echoing concerns that have been expressed over the years about the influence of media, including music, on young minds. Research on the impact of music on individuals has yielded mixed findings. While some studies suggest that music can influence mood, behavior, and even cognitive abilities, the idea of subliminal messages in music having a significant and lasting effect is widely debated within the scientific community. Even the concept of subliminal messaging itself is controversial, with limited evidence supporting its efficiency in the real world. The idea that, like hip-hop lyrics in particular, may have a brainwashing effect has been a topic of discussion amongst various groups. Some folks argue that certain lyrics perpetuate negative stereotypes and glamorize harmful behaviors, potentially influencing vulnerable individuals. On the other hand, most hip-hop creations emphasize artistic expression, storytelling, and of course, cultural significance, challenging the notion of a direct link between lyrics and behavioral outcomes. This episode from O1 taps into the cultural fascination with the potential influence of music on individuals, and definitely leaves us curious about whether or not this is something we may see in the near future. Once again, I repeat, Josie and the Pussycats did it as well. Number 4, suppression of green energy. So in episode 582, the character of Lisa creates a solar-powered car for the alternative energy derby, but her vehicle's demise occurs when the Duff blimp obstructs the sun, raising questions about corporate interests hindering the advancement of green energy. Concerns about corporations impeding the popularity of green energy are obviously not fictional. In reality, several industries have displayed interest in maintaining the status quo of non-renewable energy sources for their own monetary gain. Let's just take, fossil fuel companies for instance. They thrive on the continued consumption of oil, gas, and coal. The shift towards green energy would jeopardize their dominance in the market, leading to corporate resistance against widespread adoption in the general population. Major automotive companies, invested heavily in traditional combustion engine technologies, and the rise of electric vehicles poses a direct threat to their established market share and profitability. As green energy gains momentum, some of these corporations may resist the transition in a selfish attempt to protect their existing business models. Utility companies reliant on conventional power generation methods could also oppose widespread adoptions of renewable energy. The anti-monetary nature of renewable sources like solar and wind threatens the power distribution systems they have long controlled and dominated. This potential loss of control and revenue could motivate these companies to resist the transition to green energy. As always, political factors play a role in hindering the growth of, green energy. Some governments have historically maintained close ties with fossil fuel industries, often influencing policies that favor non-renewable energy sources. Pipelines that destroy ecosystems in people's homes? The power and financial contributions of these industries further complicate the possible transition to greener energy landscapes. The episode from The Simpsons may simply be a humorous take on the potential influence of corporate interests in, impeding the progress of green energy, but sadly, in reality, industries such as fossil fuels, automotive, and utilities have financial and structural reasons to resist the widespread adoption of renewable energy sources. So yeah, not too far-fetched in my opinion. Personally, I've always said the reason we don't have flying cars is because, that would take away a lot of money from big corporations, and big corporations don't like losing money. We've all been watching the strikes this year, right? In third place, we have the prediction of crazy earthquakes. Quoting again from, take a wild guess here. Did you guess the book of Matthew? You're brilliant! The Bible mentions earthquakes in a prophecy that Jesus gave, his words being recorded as follows. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be food shortages and earthquakes in one place after another. Jesus thus foretold that great earthquakes would occur in one place after another at a time when wars, food shortages, and pestilences would also be taking place. Together, these events identify a period in human history known as the conclusion of the system of things, or the last days. Kind of like a puzzle coming together, the 3 predictions I've listed so far tend to all come hand in hand. The National Earthquake Information Center now locates about 20,000 earthquakes around the globe each year, or approximately 55 per day. As a result of the improvements in communications and the increased interest in natural disasters, the public now learns about earthquakes more quickly than ever before. According to long-term records that date back to 1900, we expect about 16 major earthquakes in any given year. That includes 15 earthquakes in the magnitude 7 range and 1 earthquake of a magnitude, say, 8.0 or greater. In the past 40 to 50 years, our records show that we have exceeded the long-term average number of major earthquakes about a dozen times. So far, the year with the largest total was 2010, with 23 major earthquakes, the definition of which being 7.0 in magnitude or greater. In other years, the total was well below the annual long-term average of 16 major earthquakes. For example, 1988 had only 7 major earthquakes, and 1989 having 6. Knowing how much devastation a minor earthquake can cause though, never mind a large one, I'd like to not witness this prediction come to fruition. Thanks. In second place, we have the second coming of Christ, otherwise known as the rapture. Many different religions have predicted this ever since it was said that Jesus ascended to heaven thousands of years ago. The Catholic Church believes at the moment of Jesus' arrival, 3 events will happen immediately. The living will pass, The universe will be transfigured, and the dead will be resurrected, judged, and recompensed. After this single instant or moment, the Church does not know what will happen for the rest of eternity. Only that final and eternal judgment by God of the people in every nation will result in the glorification of some and the punishment of others. Personally, this sounds like a nightmare. A single source of instantaneous judgment deciding everyone's fate? Only a single God knowing what day and when this is going to happen? Yeah, once again, hard pass. Also, while the return of a savior may sound good in theory, I'd like to bring up another view on it. How many of y'all enjoy a zombie movie? Yeah, me too. Now, remind me, how do those start? With someone returning from the dead. I'm sure you catch my drift here. Adding on to the plague spot from earlier, just imagine what someone who passed away 2,000 years ago could bring back with them. We also have no clue if other spirits could return with Jesus. As history has shown, troublesome spirits and demonic powers have ways of getting what they want by attaching themselves to innocent beings, or posing as such to trick us. Once again, as much as I love discussing demonic powers that have made their way to Earth, I highly disapprove of anything that could attract them here. I'm begging you here, for the love of all things in the world, leave the gosh dang Ouija board on the shelf at the store. Please. Finally, we have my personal favorite, the Antichrist. Remember a minute ago when I talked about things that could take Jesus' place by posing as him? Yeah, time to elaborate on that front. The technical definition of the Antichrist refers to people prophesied by the Bible to oppose Jesus and substitute themselves in Christ's place before the second coming. The term Antichrist is found 4 times in the New Testament, solely in the first and second epistle of John. The Antichrist is announced as the one who denies the Father and Son. Now look, I don't really believe in a singular male god myself, which I'm sure total shocker to all of y'all, but I don't think that alone would make me or anyone else with similar beliefs the Antichrist. So I'll elaborate more if you don't click off right now. Yes, pay attention. The Antichrist would be the polar opposite and ultimate enemy of Christ. According to Christian tradition, he will reign terribly in the period prior to the Last Judgment. The Last Judgment being the day that Jesus returns to either save or, condemn us, depending on where you fall under his and God's mortal compass. The term Antichrist first appeared in the letters of John. I know, not Matthew's for once. And the fully developed story of the Antichrist's life and reign is found in medieval texts. The revelation to John refers to this figure as the beast from the abyss and the beast from the sea. In the most sustained account of his appearance, he is called the man of sin and son of perdition. He will come at a time of a general apostasy, lack of faith, deceive people with signs and wonders, sit in the temple of God, and claim to be God himself. Finally, he will be defeated by Jesus, who will destroy him by the spirit of his mouth and the brightness of his coming. I guess I'll make a note to keep a pair of sunglasses in my purse from here on out. In terms of direct comparison, with Jesus being born of a virgin by means of immaculate conception by the Holy Spirit, the Antichrist will be born of a lady of the night by means of conception by a diabolical spirit. Although opinions differed as to whether the Antichrist's father will be a man or demon, in either case the Antichrist will be, as commonly noted in the Middle Ages, full of the devil from the time of his conception. He will be born of the tribe of Dan, known as the viper in the road, rather than the tribe of Judah, and in Babylon, not Bethlehem. Like Christ, the Antichrist will grow up in obscurity and begin his open ministry when he reaches the age of 30, gaining followers by giving signs and performing miracles. The signs and miracles once more would be polar opposites of Christ, because, well, the Antichrist's supposed miracles will only be tricks, with his triumphant reign lasting for around 3.5 years. Like Christ, the Antichrist will make his way to Jerusalem, but unlike Jesus, he will be enthusiastically hailed and revered. During his reign, he will rebuild the temple and sit on the throne of Solomon while he converts the rulers of the earth to his cause. All who resist him will be tortured, and there will be great suffering to an extreme that has not been experienced since the beginning of time. The prophets Enoch and Elijah, who never died but were spirited away to heaven, will arrive to preach against the tyrant, but the Antichrist will slay them. At the end of this allotted 3.5 years, however, the Antichrist will be destroyed by the power of Christ, and after a short amount of time will come the Last Judgment and the end of the world. Not to sound like a broken record, but once again, yikes! I'd rather not have that battle or have this world end. Sure, it's not perfect by any means, and while I could stand here for about an hour and list off a long list of things I'd really love to see improve, I don't want to face it all.